Well, a good Wednesday morning to you, Central Georgia. Thanks for tuning in here on 13 WMAZ Plus for a look at your extended forecast. We're still talking more of the same as we go into this afternoon. However, for tomorrow, that's going to be a little bit of a pattern change, some more widespread rain chances, but it may help us out in the latter part of your 7-day forecast as we head into this weekend and into the beginning of next week. So we're going to start out like we have very recently and take a look at those 24-hour rainfall totals. We had a good amount of widely scattered showers, even a couple of storms yesterday, but still most areas only topped out at maybe just around an inch, maybe some pockets of about 1.5 inches of rain, areas like Taylor County over into Crawford County, parts of Upson County. Most areas were only left with less than an inch of rain yesterday, so thankfully not too much to add to those insane totals that we've already had over the last week or two. However, we did see our fair share of pretty widely scattered showers and storms. A couple of them did even pack quite a punch, maybe downing some trees, maybe downing some power lines. That's kind of the name of the game during the summertime months. You will get your strong storms. You will even get some severe storms. However, just because it doesn't have a severe tag doesn't mean that it can't have implications in terms of being damage creating. So here's a look at your headlines. Scattered rain chances for today, a little bit of a better chance on Thursday. So today is going to be more hit or miss, kind of like what we saw yesterday. But then Thursday, the rain chances are looking a little bit more organized ahead of a frontal boundary. And then as we head into the weekend, less rain and more heat. Yes, the warm air and the muggy air doesn't really look like it's going anywhere, but we may see a little bit of relief in terms of the humidity levels heading into the weekend. So let's take a look across all 4 of our sky cams right now. Partly cloudy skies, nothing really left in the way of fog, getting a good glimpse of some of that blue in the sky, but plenty of scattered cumulus out there, especially up here in downtown Macon. You can see maybe a little bit of a better coverage of some cloud cover right now that's blocking a little bit of sunshine. We are still going to continue to see these numbers climb as we head towards midday and into the afternoon, just like we did yesterday. So areas farther up to the north and the northwest, a little bit cooler because they had some fog present this morning. So that fog continues to lift up into the atmosphere and it does block a little bit of your sunshine for the first part of the day. So as that fog continues to dissipate, these numbers will start to join in with what the rest of central Georgia is feeling like. 81, 82, and 83 pretty popular on this temperature map right now. 86 quite the outlier already down in Vidalia, 80 degrees down in McRae. But then you see this trail of 70s up here to the north and the northwest. So feeling a little bit better, maybe in areas like Crawford County, Monroe, Jasper, up into Putnam County as we head into the afternoon hours. Let's take a look at your temperatures all across the eastern half of the United States. Mainly everyone in the south and the southeast is somewhere in the 80s already. The warmest temperature looks like it is 86, and that title goes to New Orleans and Panama City along the Gulf Coast. We're continuing to see this south and southwesterly flow into central Georgia. So as long as we get those winds in from the south, that's going to propel moisture either from the Gulf or it can propel moisture from the Atlantic Ocean down into our corner of the country. A little bit cooler up to the north and the northwest. Once again, those areas going to have a little bit of rain-cooled air right now, and that system is going to make its way into central Georgia over the next 24 hours or so, and it will have implications into our forecast. So let's take a look at the dew point temperatures. I said it this morning and I'll say it again, looking at this graphic is just quite painful. The darker and darker those greens get. Once again, Unadilla and Cordele already seeing dew point temperatures of 80 and 81 degrees, just like they were at this time yesterday. Upper 70s farther up to the north and the northeast. Maybe a little bit of a patch of some light green. Overall, everyone is definitely feeling the muggy air this morning. Now taking a look at your feels like numbers, you can see that we're already feeling like the mid to even upper 80s, even 90 degrees in some spots. It's already feeling like 98 degrees down in Chris County. So very quick to warm up once you get those actual temperatures somewhere in the low 80s. You combine it with some of the humidity that is present. And yes, the dew point temperatures in the upper 70s near 80 degrees have an exponential impact on what the feels like number is. So just 1 degree of an increase on those dew point temperatures can make a difference of maybe about 1, 2, or 3 degrees in terms of the feels like numbers. Here's a look at your winds and your wind gusts. Steady breeze, but not as prominent as it was yesterday. We will continue to see these south and southwesterly winds gusting about 5 to maybe 10 miles per hour. Not looking like it's going to be as breezy today as it was yesterday, but you'll still have a little bit of a noticeable wind. Here's a look at the satellite and radar picture. Patchy cloud cover to the north of us in our northernmost counties. Plenty of cloud cover over along the state line of Georgia and Alabama. A couple of showers already popping up just to the west of Columbus. Going down to our southern counties, a little bit of cloud cover entering. This satellite parameter is a little bit finicky right now, but it does look like most of the rain that can be found so far along the panhandle of Florida, creeping up into Alabama. Doesn't look like we have anything near our directly southwest, so maybe a little bit later until we get into some of the rain into this afternoon. Let's talk some of the temperatures first, and then we'll go through the model runs about our rain potential for the next 3 days, really. I mean, obviously we'll cover out each of the next 7 days, but the next 3 days we're going to see pretty much a different story each and every day. Upper 80s, near 89 degrees is what the Meteogram has us topping out at, and then it has us back down to about 88 degrees. We've been overshooting what this Meteogram has said as of the last couple of days, and I do expect today to be more of the same. Similar to this heat index graphic, only topping out at feels like numbers of 96 degrees. Cordele is already above that number, so just giving you an idea that some isolated areas are going to feel well above what this heat index graphic does say. However, this is really just kind of telling you what it's going to feel like up here in downtown Macon. It's kind of a general area, the general pinpoint for our forecast. However, mid to upper 90s and even some triple digits are once again going to be possible on those heat indices this afternoon. So our low was 70 degrees yesterday, just 1 degree above average of 69 degrees, and right on par for that high temperature. So definitely a pretty average day in terms of the temperatures, well short of the record, about 10 degrees short of the record set back in 2016, 101 degrees. 56 was the record low set back in 2012. And then you can take a look. We did get a little bit of rain measured at Middle Georgia Regional Airport, only about 1/10 of an inch, but it does give us a little more of an extra cushion on that year departure. So we're still hovering really close to about 4 inches over where we should be this time of year in terms of rain. Sunset 8:45 yesterday, sunrise at 6:27. So we haven't really been getting a good glimpse of the sunrise because of the fog, and maybe not the sunset because of some showers and even some storms lingering in your area, but a better chance of seeing that sunset as opposed to sunrise pretty recently. We have all the standing water, the humid air in the morning, so that's going to contribute to lead to that low-level cloud formation in some patchy areas like we saw this morning and likely will see for the next couple of mornings. Scattered rain once again today, a storm or two. I know I'm continuing to just sound like a broken record, but you're going to hear this forecast reiterated more and more as we officially transition into the summer season in about 2 days. We're warm, we're humid. That's enough to sprout afternoon activity in terms of showers, maybe even a storm or two. 92 degrees for a high temperature that will feel a whole lot warmer into the upper 90s near the triple digits just like yesterday. And this would put us 1 degree above average for this time of year. And that's not even the warmest that I do have forecasted on your 7-day. We will see a steady increase in those high temperatures heading into next week. So let's go through future view, the timing of this afternoon's scattered rain. Again, you may see rain, you may not. You may even see a storm in nature just because it's got the sufficient ingredients for it. But it does look like scattered rain starts to pop up into the picture around 2, maybe 3 o'clock. So next couple of hours still going to trend rather dry, but you're still going to want to make sure you stay hydrated, take those breaks in the shade, what feels like numbers already well into the 90s. Going into 6 p.m., rain still fairly scattered in nature. Don't get too locked into the pinpoint location once again of where you see maybe a storm at what certain time over what county, because it's very likely to not pan out that way. We saw yesterday, didn't look like that much of a coverage of rain. It looked very, very scattered, maybe only about a 10% according to the model run I showed. Probably ended up being more about a 40% chance of rain. Almost everyone did see something in the way of at least a little bit of a shower, maybe a brief sprinkle, but the thunderstorms were pretty isolated to just a couple of areas. Heading into the evening hours tonight, more so the nighttime, right there at 9 p.m. is the timestamp. Looking like activity's clearing out, not much to work with after you lose that daytime heating. And then starting out Thursday morning, nice and dry just like we did this morning. But here's where the pattern changes arrive. Already seeing a pretty definitive line of organization of some convection ahead of a frontal boundary that we'll be pushing through. And now this isn't a continuous line of rain. There will be some pockets where maybe the rain is a lot lighter in nature, or you may not see anything in the way of rain whatsoever. But there is organization and there's a lot of lift ahead of this frontal boundary. You need a lot of ingredients in terms of some sporadic, maybe severe weather. And we use the kind of acronym SLIM for that. We use it for shear, lift, instability, and moisture. Well, the instability and moisture, they have been running rampant each and every day. Already have 2 out of 4 of those ingredients. Some days have a little bit more shear than others, and the days that we do have a little bit more shear, that's where we do see maybe more widespread thunderstorms, maybe even some strong ones. But it's looking like all of those ingredients are going to be present in some capacity tomorrow because we're adding lift into the equation ahead of this frontal boundary. So that's why we're looking at more widespread rain chances, but still fairly scattered in nature, just more widely scattered than what we've seen as of recent days. The potential for a strong and a severe storm is going to be in the cards throughout tomorrow afternoon. That timing is looking like just after lunchtime, so just past the midday hour, we will see some of these showers and storms get really close to our northwesternmost counties, moving down towards the south and the southeast. This is about 5 p.m. As we go to about 6 to 7 p.m., a lot of that rain should be moving out of the picture. And then as we go overnight, all the activity starts to dissipate, and then we're left with a predominantly clear morning to our Friday, with the exception of some fog, which will definitely probably be the case because it looks like we'll have lots of standing water in many areas that are going to receive some showers and storms Thursday afternoon. If a lot of that doesn't evaporate and we do have a pretty humid morning once again on Friday, we'll have plenty of patchy fog in the picture once again. But the kicker is, after this front does move through, we always talk about that cooler and drier air that filters in behind cold fronts. Well, we're in the summertime months. We're not necessarily going to see cooler air quite often of the time. A lot of these fronts will be bringing in some cooler air from the north and the northern United States, up in Canada. So we're going to probably start referring to them as more so cool fronts. It may knock the temperatures down just a touch, but the difference they will make in the summertime months will be pushing that very muggy air finally out of the picture that has remained present for, I believe, about 2 weeks now. So we go into Friday afternoon, and this frontal boundary, it still is in the near vicinity of us. It's just down to the south, and you'll continue to see some afternoon rain chances maybe pop up, but still not looking like anything too confident. Everything that does pop up Friday afternoon into the evening hours is going to be predominantly very scattered in nature, but it also looks to be a lot lighter in nature. So we could see a slight influx of some maybe subtly drier air. It's not going to be much. It's still going to have a role in those feels-like temperatures, but it may be just enough of a downtick in order to really get the widely scattered rain chances out of the picture each and every afternoon. So if we keep going according to what Future View says for Friday, it's looking good to go for any outdoor plans. You may catch a sprinkle or a steady light shower, but it doesn't look like anything in the way of thunderstorms to really tell you to go indoors and have to wait something out if you do have anything planned outdoors. As far as Future View goes right now, it's 3 a.m. on Saturday. The chances for rain are still going to be there for the weekend ahead, but still a lot less confident than what we've had as of recent days. So since tomorrow, we are going to see organization of showers and storms roll through. Again, that lunchtime or midday hour all the way into about 5, 6, maybe lingering into 7 p.m. That's looking like the window for potential showers and some potential storms, some of which could be strong or severe. The potential threats that you will see with them and will be very similar to each and every system that we see during the summertime months. Gusty and damaging winds, maybe 40 to about 60 miles per hour, and that's going to be in those pockets of heaviest rain associated with a severe thunderstorm. And some large hail can be possible. We have large updrafts in these summertime storms. So that's going to lead to cloud tops going higher and higher, and all of those water particles, all that moisture at the surface to continue to rise higher and higher and cool in nature, and that can produce some of those ice pellets, and they can grow rather large in nature with these summertime storms. We'll be referring to some hail quite frequently with the summertime severe storm risk or even just some strong storm risk. But a level 1 out of 5 does exist for almost all of central Georgia. The confidence does decrease the farther south that this line does progress, because those areas are probably going to start to feel the impacts a little bit later into the day when we lose that surface heating. So we'll see how this does play out. I would treat it as everyone has this level 1 risk for tomorrow, but this is just covering the basis for maybe a strong or 1 or 2 or maybe 3 severe thunderstorm warnings into tomorrow afternoon. Or just to stay updated, probably the best way is just to make sure you have that way to receive potential alerts. You see, oh, okay, there's a severe thunderstorm warning in the county that I'm currently present at. Just wait it out for a couple of minutes. These thunderstorm warnings typically only last about the duration of what they're initially issued for, which is about 30 to 45 minutes. And then they use up a lot of that steam, and it's still going to be fairly scattered in nature. So you may get some preceding showers ahead of where that storm is moving, and that's going to work over the atmosphere. But wouldn't rule it out of the cards for tomorrow. Probably a little bit of a better chance of what we've seen as of recent days. In terms of your afternoon high temperatures, maybe not quite as warm for your Thursday. I bumped us down to 91 degrees. Still going to virtually feel the same, but that rain is looking to arrive a little bit earlier in the afternoon as what we've seen as of recent days. Back up to 92 on Friday, 94 on Saturday and Sunday. So like I said, even if this front does move through, it's not looking to bring in some cooler air by any means. The temperatures are going to be right back where they were. In fact, even a little bit warmer, because if the rain chances go down, the rain has kind of been our saving grace. These numbers have not been as high as they absolutely could. We're hovering around average for this time of year. But if we continue to get that surface heating and that sunshine all day long, we will see these numbers climb up just a touch or two more into the weekend. So that is a good indication that rain chances are lessening for any weekend plans that you do have. And this humidity, the muggy meter, does really tell the story as well. I said it's something we're going to monitor earlier in the week on Monday, and it does look like it is remaining pretty consistent. We see that steady downtick in humidity, and obviously it doesn't seem like too much relief. We're still in some sort of a light green category, but dew point temperatures hovering maybe in the 60s would make a little bit of a difference in terms of the coverage of some afternoon showers and storms. And it looks like they should hover there as we head into the beginning of next week, maybe even another reinforcing push of some slightly drier air by the time we get to Tuesday next week. We'll have to see how that scenario plays out as well. So let's talk about the feels like numbers this afternoon. Feeling like the mid 90s is what our graph future view feels like graphic does say. Obviously, what we saw yesterday, what we're already seeing, we're going to overshoot these numbers in some select spots, but mid 90s at the very least, I believe, and then some upper 90s and maybe even above the triple digits in some spots. Very similar story tomorrow before that rain does move in. You see plenty of that rain-cooled air in these lighter colors and these yellows, maybe some flashes of green, some flashes of orange. But down to our south and our southeast, you guys are going to be a little bit later to see some of the rain. So there's plenty of these pink shades that you can find as you move towards the coast in the state of Georgia. That's going to indicate maybe some isolated areas of feels like numbers of at least 100 degrees. It could even get a little bit higher. I believe we saw some 105s yesterday. We even saw Cordele pop up a feels like number of 103, and that was at 11 a.m. yesterday. Now we go into Friday afternoon, maybe a little bit of relief, feeling like the mid 90s. I do believe this a little bit more because we will have that slightly drier air. So the humidity is not going to have as much of an influence on the feels like number as we transition into the weekend. However, that's not going to be really much saving grace whatsoever because you're still going to feel the heat. You're still going to feel a little bit of the humidity, but the high temperatures only continue to go up. So it's kind of counteracting that. So we will see some slightly higher temperatures, maybe not as much of an influence by that humidity, but it's still going to feel like the mid and upper 90s for the next week ahead. So let's take a look at those rain chances for your weekend, Saturday and Sunday. Any outdoor plans? Looks like most of the rain is down towards the south of us. We go into your Sunday, not really impressive whatsoever. And that pattern continues into Monday. Maybe some very, very scattered rain chances and going to be fairly light in nature, not looking like what we've had over these messy pattern and what the long-range models have showed probably about a week ago in time, going back and looking forward to what we've had in store the last 3 days. It does look like the GFS is hinting at a good amount of widely scattered rain, maybe even some storms as we go into Tuesday afternoon and evening. We'll see how that plays out. Not seeing a lot of agreement, not seeing the European model get on board with this. So this is just what one model says. It doesn't mean that this solution is set in stone, and this is still about 6 days out, so it's definitely far from set in stone. Going into Wednesday, it looks like the mostly dry pattern does try to continue. So you'll see on your 7-day forecast, 30% chance of a shower and a storm today, very similar to what we saw on Tuesday, what we saw on Monday, many days over the past week. A little bit better coverage of rain on Thursday. I was talking yesterday and I was saying in retrospect, maybe I should bump that 40% up to maybe about a 60%. Well, that's the action I did take today. I do believe most areas are probably going to go and see some rain at least tomorrow, but don't be opposed to it because the rain does provide some of that cooled air And boy, I tell you, it made all the difference yesterday. It might have rained for only about 5 minutes time at my house, but I walked outside after it and it felt nice and cool compared to the heat and the humidity that made it quite steamy and swampy. Now going into the first day of summer on Friday, 20% chance of just a shower in general. That's what we're seeing. Good agreement amongst the models right now. Could go without having to put a thunderstorm icon on there. And I've kept the thunderstorm icons for Saturday all the way through Tuesday. We obviously didn't see a lot on the long range models, but typically we see a rebound in humidity a little bit earlier than what our Muggy meter has been reporting. So if we get that influx in humidity, some patchy areas of that dark green, we could very well see maybe an isolated thunderstorm in some areas, but I do believe Friday, after that initial passage of the front, that will be our best window for that slightly drier air. And then we could very well take the thunder or the lightning icon off of all of these graphics for the foreseeable future, but the rain chances are still about 20%, and there's a good likelihood that those go down once we can view it on some of the shorter range models, some of those higher resolution models. But I did mention the temperature increase. If we have this slightly drier air present, it doesn't have as much of a role on that feels like temperature. Well, it's not going to really matter. 94 Saturday and Sunday, 95 on Monday, 96 on Tuesday. So even though the humidity may only have an influence of about 2, 3, 4 degrees in nature, it may only make that temperature feel a little bit warmer, it's still going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of the mid and upper 90s, just like what we've been feeling as of the past days, because the temperature is going to increase to offset that. And I'm keeping my fingers crossed that we do stop at the 96 degree mark, because then we're going to start to have to talk maybe heat advisories, excessive heat watches. Haven't had to get into that criteria just yet, but those are going to be days that really, especially that you want to make sure that you're taking care of your body, because you can be more prone to heat exhaustion and these heat illnesses. So we will probably get into that territory pretty soon. Official start of summer is on Friday. So you know these temperatures in the 90s are just going to continue to become more of the normal. In fact, we've just done an update to where we're going to increase our temperature range from 80 to 100 degrees. So these bars look a little bit different. Right now, once they get to the 90 degree mark, they top out at the top of the graphic, and it doesn't look like they're really any different from one another, but we'll get different heights on them. So obviously 96 would be the highest bar that we do have. Once we get this graphic updated, gives you a little bit of a better picture that, hey, it's going to be a little bit warmer as we go into the beginning of next week. But virtually each and every day is going to feel the same, whether you have that muggy air present or we have slightly less of it present, because the temperatures are going to increase to offset that. So let's go into the tropics now. We're going to incorporate this each and every day. Forgot to put the date stamp on there. This does say 8 a.m. Tuesday. This is as of 8 a.m. on Wednesday. Still seeing a little bit of a hint of maybe some of that light brown color off the coast of Africa, and it does look relatively quiet off the western coast of Africa in the tropics as of right now. We move over towards the Caribbean and towards the Gulf. You can see there's plenty of cloud cover down over here over Central America, maybe even seeing a little bit of a pulse of convection right there, just off the eastern coast of Mexico. Now, obviously, this would be an area that maybe would sprout some concern, but it does just look like it's operating off the heat of the day. Plenty of moisture right there over that corner of the Gulf. So it doesn't necessarily look like that is going to catch the eye of the National Hurricane Center. But if it is to get a % chance of development, then of course we'll be keeping a very close eye on it, as we haven't had any named storms issued so far in hurricane season. I know we're only about 18 days into the new season, but the Pacific has been quite a different story. You can see this down here. This is some definitive organization right here, some spin associated with this cloud cover. This is Tropical Storm Eric. Yes, they are already on the letter E in the Pacific Basin. They've had storm after storm that has sprouted as maybe just a tropical storm, not necessarily too intense in nature, but Tropical Storm Eric over here just off the southern coast of Mexico is forecasted to strengthen into a hurricane. It may already be a hurricane. Haven't looked at the latest tropics update. And it's actually going to rapidly intensify into a Category 3 storm, I do believe, before it does make landfall in southern Mexico. So they are already having a very active season in the eastern Pacific so far. Thankfully, we haven't gotten that much of an active start so far, but areas down in southern Mexico, areas of Central America, definitely going to have some pretty drastic flooding concerns associated with this tropical system down there. A good amount of organization with it, and if it does get Category 3 status, it would be the first major hurricane of any hurricane season, whether that's the Eastern Pacific, the Atlantic, the Central Pacific. No one has gotten a hurricane or a named storm that has gotten to that intensity so far, and it's definitely going to have its fair share of impacts as it does kind of just move directly to the north, maybe a little bit to the northwest, going to impact the southern corner of Mexico right here. And of course, if it is the switch direction, move over into the Gulf, then we would keep our close eyes on it, as well as that could have implications for maybe the Gulf Coast and starting to get a little bit too close to comfort. But right now, still not eyeing anything that's going to affect us tropics wise. We're going to have our typical summertime forecast for the next couple of days. And if anything was to form and try to take a beeline path to central Georgia, the good news is we have that front coming in from the north and the northwest. Should stall just to the south of us. That would act as a blocking mechanism for anything that would try to move north up into the northeastern Gulf right there. So pretty inactive picture down here in the Caribbean and in the Gulf, but the Eastern Pacific quite active. If we get anything that has a chance of development, then of course we'll be letting you know, and we'll be putting out these tropics updates a little more frequently once we get into the busier time of hurricane season. But right now, in the very beginning of it, it has been relatively quiet, actually very quiet so far. Only had maybe one area with a chance of development. So that's good news. Hopefully we don't get a historic storm like Beryl was last year, very early in hurricane season, that reaches Category 5 status. But it's something we have to always keep our eyes peeled out for, especially given everything that happened with last year's hurricane season. Hopefully we can try to keep this year's below average. So that's going to do it for your extended forecast today. Just plan on trying to duck and dodge another shower or even a storm in nature. Tomorrow, better chance of maybe even some stronger weather in the form of a strong thunderstorm or a severe thunderstorm. And it doesn't really matter the classification of it, because they're still going to have those damaging wind gusts and even potentially some large hail. If things are getting messy outside, or you do get a warning or an alert on your phone, just head indoors for a little bit, ride that storm out from the safety of some shelter, and then you're good to go for the rest of your afternoon after that line does continue to push through. So the main timing of that going to be in the afternoon hours, could pertain to your evening commute home from work tomorrow. Keep an eye on the sky before making that commute home from work, because you obviously don't want to go out in a heavy downpour where it really limits your visibility and can make the conditions on the roads quite dangerous. But then keeping our fingers crossed for a beautiful weekend ahead. Rain chances are looking very scattered. That slight downtick in humidity may make all the difference in terms of our rain chances, but it's still going to be hot and it's still going to be a little bit muggy at the very least. Make sure you're taking care of your body and having good ways to cool your body down if you have to spend extended amounts of time outdoors. So thanks for tuning in. We'll be back once again at 10:30 a.m. again tomorrow for an update on your tropics and breaking down what's in store in terms of maybe some potential severe weather tomorrow afternoon. But like I said, just continue to be diligent, keep a close eye on that radar, and make plans to go indoors whenever things do get a little bit messy outside. We'll see you tomorrow.